The courtroom was silent except for the shuffle of papers as the lawyer adjusted his glasses. My heart pounded in my chest. I had been bracing myself for weeks, knowing this moment would decide my future. My sister Evelyn sat across from me with a smug smile painted across her lips, as if she already knew the outcome. When the lawyer began to read my father's will, the air grew heavy. Line after line, it sounded like a list of everything Evelyn had ever wanted. The house, the land, the savings account. Every word felt like a dagger. And then, the final blow. I leave the remainder of my estate to my beloved daughter, Evelyn. My name was missing. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a betrayal. My hands trembled, my vision blurred with tears. My sister reached over and whispered, almost gloating, "It's all mine now. You should have seen this coming." I wanted to scream, but the lawyer's voice cut through the air again. His tone shifted. He cleared his throat and said, "However, there is one more document, one your sister may not be aware of." The room froze. Evelyn's confident smirk faltered, and for the first time, I saw fear flicker in her eyes. That was the moment I realized my father had left behind more than a will. He had left secrets, and those secrets would change everything. Before I continue, please like this video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. What followed wasn't just about money. It was about lies, betrayal, and a truth so powerful it shattered the life my sister thought she had stolen. Growing up, my family was far from perfect, but I always believed that deep down, we loved one another. My father was a strict man, the kind who believed that respect had to be earned, even within the family. My mother tried to soften him, but she often failed. And then there was Evelyn, my older sister. Charming, persuasive, always in the spotlight. From the time we were children, it was clear to everyone who the favorite was. Evelyn could do no wrong in my father's eyes. When she broke a vase, I was blamed. When she failed a test, it was somehow my fault for distracting her. I learned to stay quiet, to swallow my pride, and to endure the sting of favoritism. Money was always a source of tension in our house. My father had built a modest fortune through years of hard work, owning several rental properties and a family home that carried more than sentimental value. For Evelyn, wealth was her ticket to freedom, to power. For me, it was never about riches, it was about fairness. As we grew older, the gap between us widened. Evelyn loved to flaunt her privileges, wearing new clothes, driving cars my father bought her, while I worked double shifts just to pay for college. I remember overhearing a conversation between my parents once. My mother whispered, "You can't leave everything to Evelyn, it will destroy them." My father's reply was cold and firm. "Evelyn knows how to handle it. She's the responsible one." Those words cut deeper than any knife. Years later, when my father grew sick, I did everything I could to help. I drove him to doctor's appointments, sat by his bed when he could no longer walk, and managed his medications. Evelyn? She appeared only for photographs, posting online about being the devoted daughter, when in truth, she could barely stay an hour without checking her phone. When he passed, my heart was shattered, not just by the loss of my father, but by the heavy silence that hung over our family. I thought grief would unite us. Instead, it became the battlefield for something far darker. The whispers about the will began almost immediately. Evelyn strutted around as though she had already inherited everything. She even had the audacity to sneer at me during the funeral, saying, "You should probably start packing. Dad wanted me to have the house." I laughed bitterly at her arrogance, but inside, I was terrified. What if she was right? What if decades of favoritism ended with me cast aside, as though I had never existed? It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about recognition, about justice. And as the day of the will reading approached, I realized one truth. I was about to face the cruelest betrayal a sister could inflict. Memories from childhood have a way of resurfacing when you least expect them. As the tension around my father's will grew, I found myself haunted by moments I had buried deep inside. I remembered one Christmas vividly. I was 12, Evelyn was 15. We both wanted bicycles that year. On Christmas morning, she unwrapped a shiny, brand new blue bike with a silver bow. I unwrapped socks. My father clapped her on the back and said, "You deserve this, Evelyn. You've always been the good one." I forced a smile, but inside, I broke a little that day. It wasn't about the bike. It was about the message. She mattered, and I didn't. This favoritism wasn't isolated. Birthdays, graduations, even family dinners. Evelyn was the golden child. My achievements were met with polite nods, while hers were celebrated with toasts and gifts. She thrived on it, and over time she learned how to weaponize my father's affection. I also remembered the promises. My father once told me when I was barely old enough to understand, "One day all this will be divided fairly. Don't worry, I'll take care of you too." I clung to those words through years of sacrifice. I believed him. But as I stood in the shadow of Evelyn's smug confidence, I began to wonder if those promises had been lies. When my father's health declined, Evelyn played a dangerous game. She visited him just enough to remind him of her presence, but never stayed long enough to face the hard parts. The coughing fits, the sleepless nights, the way his once strong hands trembled as he reached for water. I was there for all of it. I was the one who whispered encouragement when he struggled to breathe, who held his hand when fear clouded his eyes. But Evelyn always knew how to turn the story in her favor. She told relatives she was managing everything for Dad, spinning a narrative where I was absent, negligent even. And because she had always been the favorite, they believed her. Her lies spread like wildfire, and I had no way to stop them. The night before my father passed, he called me to his room. His voice was weak, almost a whisper, but his words burned into me. "I'm sorry," he said. "Things are not what they seem. You must trust the lawyer. He knows what to do." I wanted to ask more, but before I could, exhaustion overtook him. Those were the last words he ever spoke to me. In the days that followed, grief consumed me, but beneath it all, there was something stronger: suspicion. My father had left clues. I didn't know what they were yet, but I could feel them. Evelyn thought she had already won, but something inside me told me the story wasn't finished. And I was right. The day of the will reading arrived, and the air inside the lawyer's office felt suffocating. The room smelled faintly of old leather and polished wood, but beneath that was the sharp scent of tension. Evelyn strutted in like she was the rightful queen of the empire, heels clicking with every step. I walked behind her, my stomach in knots, my father's last words echoing in my mind. Trust the lawyer. The lawyer, Mr. Harrison, began with the formalities. His voice was steady, but my heart pounded faster with every line he read. Evelyn leaned back in her chair, lips curled into a victorious smirk. Then came the part I dreaded. "To my daughter Evelyn," Mr. Harrison read, "I leave the family estate, including the house, the land, and the rental properties." Evelyn gasped dramatically and pressed a hand to her chest, as if she hadn't already been expecting it. She turned to me with a wicked grin. "The house is mine now. Father wanted it that way." Her words sliced through me, but I bit my tongue. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing me crumble. Mr. Harrison continued. "To my younger daughter?" My breath caught. Finally. But then his voice faltered. He flipped a page, his brow furrowing. "It seems there's a supplementary document attached." Evelyn straightened, her smirk fading. "What do you mean, supplementary?" she snapped. Mr. Harrison adjusted his glasses. "It appears your father left an addendum. This document was sealed separately and entrusted to me under strict instructions." The room grew colder. Evelyn's face flushed red, her confidence cracking for the first time. He broke the seal and began to read aloud. My father's voice seemed to echo through the lawyer's measured words. "Should any dispute arise or should my intentions be questioned, I have left behind further instructions that reveal the truth. Justice, above all, must prevail." Evelyn slammed her hand on the table. "This is ridiculous. He wanted me to have everything." I finally spoke, my voice calm but sharp. "Then why are you so afraid of what it says?" For a moment, silence. Evelyn's eyes narrowed, and I could see the storm brewing inside her. She wasn't used to being challenged. Mr. Harrison set the documents down. "There are details here that cannot be ignored. I will need to review them in court. Until then, no assets can be transferred." The color drained from Evelyn's face. Her victory was no longer guaranteed. And in that instant, I felt something I hadn't in years: hope. "If you're still with me," I said softly, as if speaking to the invisible audience of my own life, "stay until the end. The truth will shock you." What none of us knew at that moment was that the addendum wasn't just a legal technicality. It was a weapon that would expose Evelyn's lies and tear apart the illusion she had built her entire life upon. The days following the will reading were a blur of whispers, phone calls, and tense family encounters. Evelyn acted as though nothing had changed, flaunting her supposed victory to relatives and even boasting on social media about inheriting Dad's legacy. But beneath her polished mask, I could see the cracks. She was rattled by the sealed document. One evening, I returned to the family home to gather some of my belongings. Evelyn was already there, standing in the study, rifling through my father's desk drawers. When she saw me, she froze, then plastered on a fake smile. "What are you doing?" I demanded. "Looking for photos," she said quickly, shoving a stack of papers back into the drawer. But I caught a glimpse: ledgers, bank statements, letters with my father's handwriting. "You're lying," I shot back. Her smile vanished. She stepped closer, her voice low, venomous. "Listen carefully. This house, this money, it's mine. If you get in my way, you'll regret it." The words chilled me. My own sister was threatening me, and for what? Money, power, control. Later that night, I found myself in the attic, sorting through old boxes my father had kept. Most of it was dust and forgotten memories, but one small metal box caught my eye. Inside, I discovered envelopes sealed with wax, each addressed to Mr. Harrison, the lawyer. Alongside them was a note in my father's handwriting. "These documents contain the truth. If Evelyn attempts deceit, they will reveal everything." My hands shook as I read. The weight of his foresight settled over me. He had known. He had seen through Evelyn long before she ever revealed her true colors. The following morning, I delivered the box to Mr. Harrison. His eyes widened as he inspected the seals. "This changes everything," he murmured. But Evelyn wasn't going down quietly. She hired her own attorney, a ruthless man with a reputation for bending the truth until it broke. Soon, legal threats began arriving at my door. "You have no claim," her lawyer wrote. "Withdraw your contest or face consequences." Fear gnawed at me, but anger fueled me more. I remembered every moment Evelyn had stolen joy from my childhood, every time she twisted the truth, every time she stood above me while I was left in the shadows. Not this time. Our family dinners, once rare attempts at togetherness, became war zones. Evelyn hurled accusations across the table. "You manipulated Dad when he was sick. You're the liar, not me." I fired back. "If you were so sure of yourself, why are you terrified of the truth coming out?" The silence that followed was deafening. My mother's eyes filled with tears, but she said nothing, torn between her daughters. The stage was set. The lies Evelyn had spun for years were unraveling, thread by thread, and soon, in court, every secret would be dragged into the light. The courtroom was packed the morning the sealed documents were finally presented. Relatives, neighbors, even curious onlookers filled the benches. Evelyn sat at the front, her attorney by her side, lips painted red as if defiance itself could shield her from the truth. I sat opposite, clutching my hand so tightly my knuckles turned white. Mr. Harrison stood holding the small metal box I had given him. His voice was calm but firm as he addressed the judge. "Your Honor, these are the instructions left behind by Mr. Anderson. They were sealed with explicit directions to be revealed only if questions arose concerning the legitimacy of his estate." The judge nodded, signaling for him to proceed. As the first letter was read aloud, the tension in the room thickened. My father's words were sharp, deliberate, and filled with the weight of foresight. "If Evelyn attempts to claim assets beyond what is rightfully hers, I leave the truth in these documents to expose her lies. She has deceived before, and I fear she will again." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Evelyn's face drained of color, but she clenched her jaw, trying to maintain control. The second letter contained evidence, copies of forged signatures, altered bank records, and even statements from tenants my father had interviewed before his death. He had uncovered Evelyn's secret withdrawals from the rental accounts, money she had siphoned for years while pretending to be his loyal daughter. The room erupted. Evelyn leapt to her feet, shouting, "This is all fabricated! He was sick! He didn't know what he was writing!" But then Mr. Harrison revealed the final piece, a notarized video recording of my father, filmed just months before his passing. His tired eyes stared into the camera as he spoke. If you are watching this, then Evelyn has tried to take what is not hers. She betrayed my trust and stole from me while I was alive. My true intention is this: half of my estate to my younger daughter, who stood by me in my final days, and the remainder to charity, where it can do real good. Evelyn will receive nothing further. The courtroom fell into stunned silence. Evelyn's screams echoed, but they were drowned out by the judge's gavel striking the bench. Tears blurred my vision as relief washed over me. Justice had prevailed. My father had seen me. He had trusted me. And at last, the years of being invisible, of being the forgotten daughter, were shattered by his truth. I glanced at Evelyn. Her confidence was gone, replaced by raw desperation. She had gambled everything on lies, and now she was left with nothing. If this shocked you, hit the like button. More unbelievable stories are coming. But the story wasn't over yet, because the fallout from that day would ripple through our family forever. In the weeks after the court's decision, the silence inside our family home felt heavier than ever. The house, once filled with arguments and laughter, now carried the echo of betrayal. Evelyn moved out almost immediately. She left behind boxes of things she no longer cared about, as if cutting ties with the past could erase her humiliation. For me, the aftermath was bittersweet. Yes, justice had been served. Yes, the truth had been revealed, but the scars remained. A part of me still longed for the sister I thought I had, the one I played with in the yard as children, before greed poisoned everything. Neighbors whispered about the trial for weeks, some pitying Evelyn, others shaking their heads at her downfall. My mother, caught in the middle, aged years in just months. She tried to rebuild bridges, but Evelyn refused every call, every letter. She vanished into her bitterness. I inherited my father's half of the estate just as he intended. But more valuable than the money was the vindication. I finally felt seen. My years of sacrifice at my father's bedside had not been forgotten. His final words, his foresight, his trust, they gave me the strength to move forward. Still, I couldn't help but reflect how fragile families can be when money is involved. Love should bind us, but inheritance can expose the ugliest parts of the human heart. Evelyn didn't just want wealth, she wanted control. And when she lost everything. Not just assets, but her dignity, her family, her place in the story. There are nights when I wonder what might have been if my father had split everything equally from the beginning. Would Evelyn have shown her true self anyway? Or would the cracks have stayed hidden beneath a facade of peace? I'll never know. What I do know is this: inheritance can divide, but truth will always rise to the surface. No matter how carefully lies are constructed, they eventually collapse under the weight of reality. And so I ask you, what would you do if you were in my place? Would you fight for justice, even if it meant tearing your family apart? Or would you walk away to preserve the fragments of peace that remain? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if you want more shocking inheritance stories, keep watching this playlist. Because as I've learned, the most unbelievable tales aren't always fiction. Sometimes they're written in our own bloodlines. My father may be gone, but his truth lives on. And in that truth, I finally found my freedom.